Hello, good afternoon. That means can hear my voice, right?
Yes, good
Can.
afternoon, Ken.
Okay. Hello, beautiful ladies, handsome gentlemen. We meet again today. Hope everyone is doing fine. So you see, my background is virtual. So as many of you, we are probably at home. Okay, so this is but it doesn't stop our learning activity. So here we are today. All right, so it's 3 o'clock. I think we shall get started, and just as more people coming in, we'll just let them in and join us later. All right, so okay, some of you have actually get to know me, but many are new. So I introduce myself. My name is Wani from Top 4 side for today's session. Okay, so just give you a little bit of intro. We actually have this free learning session once a month just to share what are the interesting topics that we will pick up interesting topics, and then we will cover in about 1 hour or so, just to share and keep update to to the latest um, news or update in the HR, especially in the area of performance management. So, okay, so welcome for new joiners, and if you want to keep track of our latest update, when will be our next sessions, then be sure to join our Telegram performance learning community. So as that will be our main channel to update if you got interesting updates. Okay. All right. So for today, our topic is very interesting. Like for some of you, just to share, previously we've covered areas in terms of rewards. We covered in terms of workplace productivity, key focus areas, performance tracking. But today we are going to talk about the competency. So as we know, competency also plays an important role in terms of driving quality and performance in an organization. So I think today's topic will be much of interest to give you more perspective in terms of the competency. All right, so without further ado, before I invite our speaker, our speaker for today is, as always, Mr. Anthony Tan. So Mr. Anthony is a certified balanced scorecard practitioner from George Washington University. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Anthony to come and join us to kickstart the session. Please welcome Anthony.
Okay. Well, thank you, Wani, for the wonderful introductions. And of course, it's glad to see some familiar faces. Welcome, Jane. Welcome, Amy, and a couple of you who has been, attending our sessions. Okay. Now, in fact, Wani has been asking me what is a good topic to start for this particular month. And I thought that basically when we cover a lot of KPI stuff like that, performance, I thought one of the things which is very neglected in the areas of managing performance of human capital is competencies. So today I try not to be very technical, but I also look at the list. We have a lot of people. There are a couple of people from HR. That'd be great. So let's have an interacting session as well. If there's any questions that you need to ask, please feel free to ask questions. And more importantly, I believe some of the company some of you who have attended or who are in your organizations, I believe you have, do a lot of performance management. And one of the key components of any performance management is not only just KPI, it's also what I would call competency assessment of human capital. All right. So today I'm going to go into that particular topics and I'm going to share with screenshot. Now, a few things. Okay, let me just share my screenshot first. I think it's important. I want to see whether, okay. All right, now I'm going to share my screenshot first. Okay. Sorry. All right. Okay. Now, what I would like to share with you all basically is how we actually use competency framework to drive quality of human capital. Let me share with you this. We have helped quite a lot of companies, multinational companies, as well as even small organizations. You use the competency model to actually improve the capability of an organization, not just from the standpoint of how you manage KPI and stuff like that, but more important to build whatever you have, the human capital, to take them to the next level. So competency framework is actually a very important methodology that if you apply and use it well, it's actually very rewarding, all right? Now, what I'm going to do, basically, I have divided these sessions into 4 parts. Number 1, just a quick overview what competency is all about. Number 2, type of competencies that we are using every day. And I'm sure many companies have a competency model in some way or the other, the competency you apply in your organizations. Then, of course, thirdly, which is actually the most important, I believe it is actually a very important part, we call the assessment model. Assessment model basically is how do you create a model in which we can assess individuals. The whole idea basically is if I have a group of people, and at the end of the year, or not at the beginning of the year, I want to know what are their strengths and weaknesses. And also to know what are the future requirements. Of course, if I have an assessment model, it will help me to actually determine what are their strengths, because not everybody are perfect. Some of us are good in something, some might not be good in other things, all right? So assessment model is very important. I want to share with you. There are many assessment models, but I will share with you 3 of the most common assessment models used in the industry. And the third part is the framework development. What are the things that you need to look into in order to build a proper framework? A lot of people always think that competency, just take 15 competencies put together and then we drive the organization performance. Unfortunately, I wish it worked that way, but it doesn't work that way. Those are very traditional way of looking at how we want to work on it here. All right. Now, I just want to share a couple of things here. Is this now? I like this to be an interactive session. Even though it's 1 hour to maybe 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes or so. Okay. Feel free to ask me any questions. You can key into the chat because I'll be looking at your chat as well. You can key a question you need to ask. You can send to admin. Okay, you can send to admin if you have a question you want to ask admin. Okay. Okay, welcome, Wan Sufyan from. Okay, welcome, Wan Sufyan. All right, and you can also send the question directly to me if you feel you want to ask me a very personal questions and I thought you want me to just answer the question. Or by all means, please feel free to stop me at any point in time. I think we must make sure there's a very informal way of learning things. You can stop me. If something that you think I say something might trigger you certain things, please feel free to ask the question here. All right, all quite clear enough. So this is just to give you an idea about how we want to do it here. All right, we're going to go back again. Maybe I'm going to skip this again. I'll go in one more time. All right, doesn't matter. All right. Okay, so I think that's a very important thing I want you to do. Now, there is a certain communication channel which I would like to interact with you. I want this to be an interactive session. I don't want it to be just one way, you listen to me, but I also want to hear some feedback pertaining to this particular topics. If you have some feedback, please send me the feedback as well. Very important, all right? Now, if all of you are ready, first of all, I just want to ask a couple of questions, okay? Now, how many of you here in your organization have some form of a competency model or framework that you use in your organization? If yes, can you type in one? I just want to know. Anyone has used competency to do assessment of human capital in your organization? Doesn't matter how complicated, how simple it is, as long as you have. If I will appreciate you, just key a one for me into the chat group. I just want to know how many so that at least I know how to address. Anyone? Have any company used a competency to assess human capital performance in your organization? Okay, great. Yeah, so some put yes, some put yeah. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so I think it's going to be very interesting today. All right, okay. All right, so no, it's not a problem. Yes, it's be great. So not to worry about that. So, okay. All right. Now, so a few things here. If you are ready, just key a 2 for me so that we can really start the sessions. Just go a key and then we can we can produce, start the session here. I also see a couple of HR consultants in. That's very good. I'd like you to also share with me and see what you have done and what are the new approach that we can do in terms of managing performance. All right, the topics are divided into 4 very simple topics. One is to give an overview what competency is all about. All right. After we finish this already, then we're going to talk about the type of competencies that we can use. Actually, competency are divided into a few types. For me, it's not so important, but it's important to know there are different types of competencies that an organization apply to it. To me, the most important of all is the assessment model. Assessment model is called competency assessment model. There are many assessment models in the market. I only picked 3 of the most common ones, which is used in the context of Malaysian industries. Okay, companies have used it. Because I've been working with a lot of organizations over the years. I work with public listed company as well, and we actually know what are some of the models the company are using it. And of course, the next thing I'll show you, guide you, what are the things you should consider when you do framework development. All right, so this is basically to give you an idea of what we want to do here. All right, very good. I think that's it. Let's go into, I have a good news for all of you here. I always believe knowledge is no more a commodity. So which means to say, after the end of the sessions, probably my staff will actually attach it into your chat. You can actually download the whole presentation materials, okay? So this is my gift to all of you. It's not just come here and listen to me, because I think you need to have a point of reference as well, all right? So you can just pick and go it. Do you like that? All right, so I always believe in sharing, okay? So not a problem, thank you for this. Okay, let's look at the competency model. So whatever I share with you, you can actually do, all these are object-based kind of presentation. I'll be giving you the PDF file, but the PDF will also behave the same way as what I show you. Let's go into competency, an overview. Let's go in now. Now, first of all, what is a competency? Basically, it's basically defining a standard requirement which encompasses a couple of things: knowledge, skills, and behavior. It can be a combination of one, it can be very specific, all right? So it could be knowledge, skills, and behavior. And the whole idea basically is we want to tell an individual, okay, that what are the skills, the knowledge and behavior that this person need to have, or the ability to have, so that he can carry out the work efficiently and, more importantly, successfully. So basically, we are trying to define and tell people, okay, now I say quality. Okay, let's say I could be talking about initiative. I could be talking about communications. The word communication is such a broad word, so we had to define very clearly if possible state out actions or behaviors or activities that need to be carried out, and he need, or that individual need to perform that. So in a simple nutshell, it's actually setting a standard, okay, the requirements, okay, what an individual need to do, all right? So that is a very simple definition of competencies, all right? The next important part is, how does organization use competency? What does it apply to an organization? Especially some of you who come from organizations, I think it's very important that, why do you want to do competencies? I think from the context of organization that we work with, especially we work with many organizations, and one thing basically what most organizations want to have is to have a way to define and establish the expected level of quality of performance needed of an individual, so that this individual can adequately execute his work. I cannot say you're good or you're bad. It's a very general statement, but I must be able to tell you why you're good at certain things, why are you not good at certain things. For example, I cannot say, oh, your communication skill is no good. It's just a general statement, but we must define what element of communications that is good. Some people have certain good communication skill in certain areas. Some people might not have communication skill in certain areas. So we cannot rule out that the person cannot communicate. He probably can communicate, but he might not be strong in one area. He might be strong in other areas. I'm going to use communication as an anchoring to help you and I understand about the kind of models that we want to look at it. So I think we have to be very clear. So some organizations are, when you do performance, you're predominantly competency, which is, I mean, it's good, but it's not good because it's only defined the quality. We also need to define some other parameters as well. So I think all of you have to be very clear on this fundamental here. The next question, how does it apply to an individual? First, we talk about organization. So we tell yourself, why do I need to have a competency? Okay, actually, it's very, very important. Now, Competency here doesn't mean a single competency. You have to understand. One competency is not going to make the person any different. It's a combination of set of competency that provide an individual a roadmap or an indication of what kind of behavior I expected from you. What kind of skill sets are you required to have in order to be, for example, I could be a manager of projects. What kind of behaviors do I need to be as a manager? What kind of skill sets I need to have in order to execute my project functional areas? What kind of knowledge do I need to have to apply in the things that I need to do? So basically for the individual, it's very important because when a person works for a company, okay, it's not whether the person is good, it's just a combination of set of skills and knowledge this individual need to have in order for he to adequately perform the work that he wants to do relating to his subject matters, all right, or his work. So first of all, as you can see, for a company, we set a defined standard quality. For an individual, this is very, very important. So in other words, we always tell staff, number one, people say, oh, competency for what? Because I think you need to know what are you good at. Please remember, an individual in an organization, you have many people in the company. Some are good in something, some are not good in other things. Some could be good in other things. And we need to understand, even for communications, we cannot say you're a poor communicator, you're a good communicator. Cannot say that because there could be some element of communication this individual is good at. There's some element of communication he needs to improve himself, all right? So I think it's very, very important. So it is a way in which an organization can communicate with the individual and the individual can know his career path because if he understands the roadmap, he will then begin to understand how do I move from an executive to become a manager, to become a senior manager, to become top executive. I think that's a very important aspect of it that I think we have to understand it. So this is a very important part of the definition of competencies, all right? Okay, the other thing, of course, it must be value. I cannot tell you, oh, boss, this is my competency, but the question, the company don't value it. So of course, at the end, we're going to define what makes sense to you, to the company, and to the overall community or the people we work with. Number two, it has to be recognized, okay? There's no point to say I'm good in something, it must be recognized. And lastly, it's very important, this is very important. We must have a way to reward people. It's not just a question of whether you're good at something or you're not good at something. The reward element is a very important part of performance. So there must be some form, some way in which we can actually carry some form of reward, and later part I will come and share with you on that part of it here. All right, so this is a very important part. The next thing is, how does it represent to a company? Why do you need a company? Now, when people ask me the question, Anthony, am I a quality company or not? My sales revenue is fantastic, but overall performance of the revenue is good. But take note, it doesn't define that your company is quality. It's just your company is doing well. Maybe for many reasons, the market is very good. The COVID situation has created good and bad and things like this. But the quality of a company is defined by whether your people are competent or not. It's not whether you have achieved financial result. It doesn't mean anything. So you should know very well, for example, a lot of time when you carry executive work, you have a lot of problems, people don't have the skill set, you have to intervene. So as a top executive, you try to not get yourself into it. So very, very important. If you put a defined set of competency, you can actually now define the kind of quality you want for your people, the language of which how you define the human factor qualities and performance of an organization. So I think that's very important because people will ask me, if you achieve very high revenue for the next 2-3 years, are you a quality company? No. A quality company is a company where the people in the company have very high level of competencies. Okay, they keep improving it, they keep evolving according to the changes of the market situations. All right, and that is very important. I want to share with one practical example was Intel. Now, you know very well for many years, Intel has been in RAM chip manufacturing. Then they realized that it was so competitive, all right, then they decided to change the business to make microchips. And what is interesting was it was an evolution of change, how they define the quality. The quality that is required in the old business and the quality required in the new business, the people have to change. It's not whether the company want to do something or not. So I think all of us have to be very clear, okay? So I want to share with you this is, okay, what is the key difference between value and recognition? Okay, someone asked me the question. Value is something that we believe in it. Okay. Now, if there's a question was asked, what is the difference? Value is, I believe in, let's say, a particular competency in sharing. Somebody might believe in something else, okay, another set of competencies, which is actually different. So when it's value, means to say that we all understand and share together. Recognition means if the person performed, that he had done well, we will recognize that, hey, look, you have done well. We recognize that you contribute in these areas. So there's a difference between value and recognition. Value means something that I do, okay, how to say that all of us, we value it. It's no point that I believe something that the people in the company don't value it. So it's only when we value it makes sense. Okay, so I just want to explain to you the difference between value, recognition, and reward. A recognition means I recognize you've done well, I contribute you. After recognizing, I must reward you. All right, so basically it's this. So I want you to understand, please, there is two different things between a company doing well and a quality company. Okay, so one of the challenges of many SME is this. They can be doing very well, but if you want to compete with the world and with the COVID situation, I think we had to put a lot of emphasis how we can build better people in your company. Now, some people ask me, COVID-19, is it doing good or bad? Now, I will tell you one thing is, there's a good things if we only don't worry about the problem. We take the opportunity to continue to develop human capital. By the time we get over it, you could be way ahead of all your competitors. All right. So I think it's very important. We must look at the positive aspect of it than just look at the negative aspect of it. All right. So I think that's a very important part here. Okay. I hope I answered your question, Tang. All right. Now, next one. How do you develop a framework, competency framework? Okay. Okay, there's another question on individual effort. Should the organization set the expectation on the level and the quality effort? Oh, of course, Victor, definitely, yes. I totally agree with you. We do that. But first of all, before we come to that, okay, I think we just have an overview of the competency first. Victor, I'll definitely address the issues when you put out there on the levels and things like that. We'll definitely come to that first. But first of all, I want you all to understand how to develop a competency framework. Now, this is very interesting because I work with many organizations. I always tell the company must know, the top executive have to know what is the corporate directions. It's very important. What is the company values? Because a person who comes to work with a company, the values are different from the top executive. That means to say, I will know that it doesn't fit into the organization. Just about a year ago, just to share with you this, I did a very high-level succession planning for a public listed company. Now, one of the very important criteria was this. The CEOs and the owners have a set of value. Now, if the set of value doesn't jive with a person he wants to recruit in the company, that is a problem. It doesn't matter whether it's internal or external. So during the selection criteria, okay, we look at the competency. We also look at whether the value fit to the company and whether the corporate direction is where you want to go. It's not whether you get the best CEO or not. If the CEO you get can be the best CEO, but his value system and things doesn't fit it in, he will not able to be successful in your organization. So likewise, if you want to be successful, I will always recommend this. It's not just go and pick your 20 competency and you want to drive it. You need to have a competency framework. I'm going to go into detail afterward. So it's very, very important thing is you need to have a proper framework. Now, the framework can be also very powerful because it is an essential vehicle to drive the company future performance, okay? And more important here is a bit different. If a KPI, we say, okay, I want you to hit 30 million for me by the end of the year. Here, we just look at the end, what's the result? Now, in competence framework, it focuses on different things. It focuses on what kind of human capital capability we need to have in place if we want to be successful in the next 2 to 3 years. I don't care whether I have that individual or not, but from the framework, I will know that for this position, these are my requirements. Okay, these are, so like Victor, I mentioned to you, this is basically we will look into. But to do that, we need to come up with a proper competency frameworks. This is very, very important. So which means to say, assuming you've developed a very good framework, what happens is if you've got 40 job positions, now I don't care who is in the 40 job position. As long as there's a position, I will know what kind of capability I expect this individual to be having. Then when I can recruit, I will know whether the individual meet a strength. Then I will make a decision whether it is adequate enough for me to recruit the person. After I'm going to share with you something more interesting as well is that sometime in recruitment, you can actually use a framework for even for recruitment purposes, because sometimes recruitment, we are guilty of doing this. When the person come in, okay, the guy was very impressive, talked very well. Chances is that we tend to have this what they call unconscious effort to employ somebody who can talk very well. We forgot about a framework, a competency framework. All right, so I just want to share with you, it's actually very powerful if you put it in the correct context of it. All right. Now, at the same time, once you have a competency framework, it becomes a very powerful change element. I just want to tell, especially the CEOs and top exec and HR people, is this: when a company go through a change of fundamental issues, all right, the framework becomes your driving vehicles. It becomes a tool to ask the management what kind of element of change you want to do. It's not a question of change the people. It's a question of whether we need certain skill sets, we need to have certain things, and then once we put it in, we will drive the people to move into that directions. I think that's very important. So set directions and in the requirements in that context. Okay, I'll move a bit faster here. I'll just cover. Now, for practical and ease of implementation, number one, it's not how many competency you have. I always tell people the company might have 20 competency. Please don't use all the 20. You should keep the number. Ideally speaking, all the work we have done is not more than 12. Some companies have 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter. What is important is you must understand the implications of when I say 8. Does it has an impact on the individual to perform? The number is just a number. But more important thing, a successful individual is not gauged by 1 or 2 competency. It's based by a combination of competency. It could be skills, it could be behaviors. After I show some very interesting example, you can have a look at it. All right. And more important thing is we then have to organize them into clusters to make the framework easier to the user. Framework must contain definition, example of each competency. Now, unfortunately, what I cover now sounds a bit theoretical. Don't worry about it. I will show you some real example, and I also bring in some interesting example that I've done work with many organizations. All right. The next part is how do you use the competency framework? Now, I will share with you something quite interesting. Now, when I talk about competency, unfortunately, I cannot cover competency. We talk about assessment, because at the end of the day, competency is one of the components to actually eventually determine the overall performance of an individual as well as an organization. Now, this is the typical performance framework. Competency is one of the components under the stuff. Now, in the typical organization performance, okay, if you look carefully, here is this. All right, I'm just going to shift this down. Here is this. Usually today, I'm talking about today's context. Whether you have or don't have, it doesn't matter. Today's context is this. The final rating is not just the staff performance. In this case, it's a combination of staff, organizers, and business performance. Unfortunately, I have to cover this. If I don't cover this, then we miss the context why we want to do competencies. Now, this is dynamic, 60, 20, 20. Here depend on, I'm not going to go into detail today, okay, but I want to tell one thing, this is dynamic. The more senior you are, the percentage here will reduce, maybe 10, 20, 40, 40. The more junior you are, the staff performance becomes 80, 90, and this will be much smaller. Okay, so I just give you an indication to tell you that one of the important elements of performance management is you have to create layers of how you define performance, and this layer will affect a lot of things where we do. Okay, so this is this. And the final rating normally is only used for reward, in this case of pool, bonus. Okay, usually it's used for bonus. However, a lot of companies don't realize that actually the competency is actually used for 2 very important criteria. It is for increment and promotion. All right, which means to say that it contributes to the bonus calculation, but in a smaller percentage, because staff performance normally is a combination of 60, 30, and 10. Of course, this again is dynamic, depend on how the organization want to set in for. So it can be 60, 30, and 10. So if in this particular manner. All right. So what I help most organizations today is very simple, is this. We help them to actually look at, to give reward in terms of bonus, but we also help them to identify who are the people we need to promote them, who are the people who get increment, which means to say, by using this very powerful model now with a competency model, that means to say, a person who get good bonuses, not necessarily good increment, all right? And a person who get average bonuses might get very high level increment, might even get promoted. This is a very important part I want you to understand about performance and competency model, all right? So this is very important because the bonuses or the final rating is dynamic. It depends on many variables. It depends on whether the companies do well. It depends on whether the pool is available. It depends on the total staff performance. So it's such a variable thing. It can only be used and only be used for reward. You cannot use it. The problem sometimes in many organizations is a person who get good bonus also get good increment. No, you cannot apply this. I give you an example. This individual can do very well in competency, but he's not willing to change. He just do basic things only. Of course, it contributes to his final rating. Yes, he get good bonus, but he will never get promoted because I say, look, you're not improving yourself. Yeah, and the KPIs, the result you come, it's not only yours. It is everybody put in the effort to give you the result. So in other words, if you do develop very good models, okay, you become to create something very fair to help your people to grow. At least people know very well, if I get promoted, it's because I'm competent, not because the company do well or anything else. So this is a very important model. This is the models now I encourage most organizations to adopt it. Now this model is not new because Allianz International, the German insurance company, is using this quite similar model way back even in before 2000s, because I happened to work with Allianz International way back in 2000s, all right? So this is something that is very, very important thing. So any questions, anyone? Because I thought that this is good time. I'll just pause for just for a while to see whether you have any questions or not. Anyone got any questions? Anyone have not clear about this particular frameworks? Okay, there's a very interesting with what are other contributions. Now, I want to share with you, this is very interesting. I have a client, which is a Japanese company, all right? What is interesting is that other contributions, because we want people to be balanced in a company, not just be competent. We want people also to have the sharing concept. So other contribution can be if you are a member of a committee. Let's say, for example, could be a reward committee. You could be a member of sport club members and things like this. So other contribution means that it could be something that you contribute, not just purely from the work aspect of it. You also share something to the company. So those are examples of other contribution. It could be also other aspect of it, something that we cannot measure. I give an example. I could be suddenly, my boss keep making asking a lot of things which is nothing to do with work. I help the other department, and the department call me in, and then there are certain elements you need to put in. That is where the other contribution comes in. So my client, the Japanese, have used it extremely well. Even the way how you're going to get the rating, the point systems are defined by, you cannot say, I want to do this 10 activity, maximum only you get 2 points, for example. Then you have to make sure you balance it up in this manner. All right, so other contributions are quite interesting. It could be something that you share. It could be you are in a committee. It could be you're involved with certain exercises, things like this. Those are other contributions. Shireen, have I answered your questions? All right, I hope that that provide you some ideas today. All right. Okay, now, since you are here, I thought I would take the opportunity to also share something that will also address other things that competency. Now, we have a virtual workshop on the 14th and 15th July. I just have to do a bit of marketing here because it's address some of these issues. So we have a workshop. Okay, I'll just share with you this. All right. This workshop is on the 14th. It's called Virtual Public Workshop, which is called Developing KPI, the New Norm. All right. And the whole idea of this workshop is to address KPI. I want to tell one thing, it's not competency, but because we have a workshop, so I just want to share with you this. And one of the problems of many organizations today is a lot of people talk KPI, but the work I work with many companies, 70–80% of the KPI actually are not even a KPI. By namesake, it is a KPI. So this workshop want to teach them how to actually develop how to come up with practical way to develop KPI. All right. So I'm going to go through a very practical workshop to teach people how to develop the KPI. All right. I will also give you a brochure. My girl will attach you a brochure to share with you this. So this is actually what the workshop. The learning objective, okay, of the workshop is we will make sure that we'll teach you the practical approach to come up with objective statements and measure by job position based on the key focus areas methodology. Now, let me just share with you what is this methodology. This is a very important, this is actually, okay, OKR is just one of the things, but this one we address almost every of the process that we can think of. So we use key focus area, very layman approach, and then we tie to key result areas approach on how we want to look at key result areas and so forth. So this is a workshop that we will be doing, okay? So this is very important. Okay, there are viewpoint that once KPI evaluation implement, it will cause individuals to focus on areas that are within KPI and others may not be bothered. What is your viewpoint on this and how do you come? Okay, that's the reason why I just want to return back this one here. Now, in order to solve that, okay, it's very important that you must not only have KPI, you must have competency. That's what today's topic is all about. So if you just focus on KPI, all right, then there is no intention to improve oneself and we will send a wrong message to an individual. So company just focus KPI without competency framework is no good at all. You need to balance, all right? So I think competency framework is very important to part and parcel or balance the growth of an organization. It's very fluid, it's very organic, okay? So I think that's a very important part that I want you to understand this. So I hope you understand. So basically, so we are using this very powerful model. This model is very effective because we are using quite successfully for most organizations really. We use very layman approach, then we use to key focus areas, and of course, eventually we'll develop what we call frameworks and so forth. Now, what you will be getting in this workshop is we'll have a very, we're going to provide you interactive, multi-dimensional learning tool. Just for example, the thing that we do, we need to say that when you go in, okay, it's all object-based. You click on this, you go here, you click on this, you go there. So we make learning very fun. That means to say you don't learn during the workshop, you learn even after the workshop. So after the workshop, you can actually learn the whole process on how you actually can learn. So I always believe learning must be continuous. Learning cannot be, actually you don't really learn a lot in the workshop. It's only you learn after the workshop where the material provide for you to actually learn this. We also provide you very smart tools, which is smart tools. This is a smart tool, it is VBA macro object driven. We have library build, smart features, and ease of use and customization. So these are some of the interesting the topics that we do. Of course, who should attend? Anyone want to learn KPI, but more important, HR managers, senior management, transformation team, business leader. I always believe you should actually understand the mechanic, those who attend. And of course, the investment part will be very simple, okay, here. Now, very special deal, I'll come that later for those who attended the workshop here. So this is just to do a simple share with you what we're going to do that, all right? Let's return back to this thing. So now, before I go any further, all right, any questions you want to know? Okay, because I have finished the whole element of an overview of competencies. Okay, if not, I will go back, all right, to the whole thing here. Okay, just go in here. All right, now, so we're talking overview already. Those who are late, you don't have to worry. As I promised just now, I told the group already. At the end of the session, I will leave behind the materials that I showed to you so that you can go back and play with it and learn. Because I don't expect you to learn in 1 hour. I expect you to digest, go back and play with it and learn something from it. So not to worry about that. Now let's look at. So we have covered an overview of competencies already. So you understand. Okay, let's look at the type of competencies. Let's go in the type of competency. Now here I take in a general context what most people will do. Typical type of competency will be, okay, skills-based. That means you say, here we monitor people by looking at their skills. So what kind of skills are required? So these are skills-based. I won't go too much into depth here, but there are certain skills that we can define whether the person able to exhibit certain, what they call, I won't say behavior, but certain ability to do certain things which are skill-related. It can also be behavior-based. Behavior-based means like decisiveness, resilience, it's not skills-based. I cannot say I have to observe you. Behavior-based, it is based on observation. So commitment is also based on observation. Integrity also based on observation. So certain things, certain kind of competency are very observation-based. So we call this behavior-based. Now, however, there's also another cluster that we can call functional-based. Functional-based means it's based on, assuming, let's say I'm a sales manager sales, okay? So manager sales, I need to have negotiation skill. Now it's a skill, but in this case, it is a skill that is functional related. All right, so I just show you the general perspective of, I prefer not to use this approach, but if you want to learn competency, I need to share with you all these particular aspect of it that you need to have. Okay, so it can be skill-based, it can be behavior-based, and of course, you can recluster the skill behavior and organize it into functional related. That means to say that how you do it today, please remember, don't ask me how to do it because we are not here to talk about how to do it, but to give you an idea of how we're going to work on it, okay? It can also be corporate value based. Corporate value means your company come up with a set of corporate value and then you put this as a competency. But I want to share with you, this model is no longer used by most companies anymore. It's a bit outdated, the corporate related value based. Why? Because current practice is to align selected competencies to the corporate value, because the corporate value base can be very misleading because deliver with purpose might require not only one competency, several competency. And we cannot say that this is a competencies. So I encourage organizations to take out the corporate value as a competency because you know why? The new method is this. This is a new approach. This should share with you this. So currently, this is a new approach of what we call competency. So what we do is, for example, these are our top 4 sides, corporate value. We have deliver with purpose, respect for people, innovate through creativity, learn and share, lead through leadership. Then we look at each competency, whether it impact any one of the corporate value, like commitment in this case. So these are a typical example. This is our top 4 side competency model. We have developed it. So they are core. Our core is commitment, customer focus, quality focus, and teamwork. So like commitment is related to 2 corporate values: deliver with purpose, learn and share. Then interesting, quality focus related to innovate through creativity, learn and share, and lead through leaderships. So then, for example, then we look at each corporate value. For example, deliver purpose affected by 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So this method is very dynamic because over the years, a company can then re-look at it and see how you want to do for this one. So I would not recommend, if companies who are still using corporate value, okay, as a competency, please, I think you should stop doing that because it's very outdated and it has been proven not a very good way of doing competency because some of the company dare to be different. It's not a competency. It is a combination, a set of competency. So by creating a linkages between your competency, okay, some people say corporate value or we put in here. No, I don't agree on that anymore because we have moved very quickly to today's world. So that should be not be the core criteria on how you do this. Okay. Any feedback, anyone, please? So those who are using corporate value as a competency, please move away. Remap it, okay, to the set of competency that you have. I think that's a very important part. Okay. Any question here? Because every time I finish a topic, I will throw a question and then you can ask anything that you have related to your organization. You can actually send a thing to me. You can actually post me a question. Are you okay, everyone? Okay, so far, is it easy to learn? If you think it's so far quite easy, just key a 3 for me so I know that you're okay. All right, if you're okay, just key a 3 for me. That means to say that just key a 3 in the chat. All right, so I know that you're okay. All right, fantastic. Okay, very good. Let's move on. So I'm going to go back again. So that is the important part. Now, I need to share with this part. This one I will go through a little bit more to share with you because this is very important. And then framework, I will cover. Framework, I may just only cover a few essential things, but I'm going to share with you competency assessment model. Now, what is an assessment model? Assessment model means to say we need to have, okay, there's a question, can complete framework just comprise of soft skill, technical skill? Normally, Shireen, today, it is a combination of skills, knowledge. It can be technical skill, can be soft skill, but today, most of the competency actually have built-in behaviorally, not only just skill-based. Some are knowledge-based. You have this. So, but for me, I'm not too worried about it. I think what I'm more worried is that knowing the corporate directions, knowing what you want, knowing what are the key elements that the company need people to have to drive it. So I won't be too worried about whether I have skill-based, technical-based. Those are very old traditional way of doing things. Normally what we do is I'll give a company, we have actually 67 set of competencies. I'll give a company about 40 to select, and then we go through a proper exercise, looking at a lot of things, and finally we select about 20 competencies for the organization to use, all right? We'll come, that's very technical, so I'm going to skip that for the time being. Now, let's look at assessment model. Now, assessment model is basically this. I have a competency. How do I assess that individual? That is very important. This is what assessment model is about. Now, there are many assessment models. I only pick three, which is the most typical three assessment model used by, I can say, probably 80–90% of most companies. All right, let's go in. Not knowledge and technical skill as, Sunita, not knowledge and technical skill part of K and S. K and S stand for what? Knowledge and skill. Oh yeah, I mean, okay. Anyway, let's don't worry about that. Knowledge. Knowledge are very interesting. So what are knowledge? Okay, I want to share with you what's the difference between knowledge and skill. Knowledge is that sometime, okay, in order to be a doctor, I need to know certain, what you call, either certain blueprint, or I need to know certain SOP, I need to have, for example, I need to have a knowledge of, let's say, if I am a traffic policeman, I need to understand traffic laws, I need to know what can be done, things like this. So for me, okay, I think that's a very important part, things like this. All right. The upcoming planning KPI will be KPI, core competencies isn't considered redundant. What's your thought on this matter? All right. Okay. Even just to answer you the questions, what is interesting now is this. Okay, I try to understand what's the question. Upcoming plan PMS model will be KPI 70%, core competence 10%, core value 10%. Isn't considered redundant. What's your thought on this? Now, I feel that one of the problem of implementation today, in fact, some companies actually stopped using PMS model for simple reason was that the problem here is if you want to do performance, for me, is either you are very clear of what you want to do, there's no half-baked thing. The problem in many organizations, most of the performance are half-baked. You know, you put a system down there and say you got a performance management framework. So I totally disagree because it doesn't matter whether you put 70, 20, core values should be embedded into the competencies. So I would not agree that you should put a 10% on core values because the competency actually embraces the core value. It defines in that element. But of course, a company to choose to define whether you comply to the core value, then you add another element of assessment, all right? So I won't go too much into that, but I will say it very simply. Evelyn, is this, it doesn't matter what you do, you have to make sure you know enough detail to implement it. Because I find that many organizations have not spent enough time. They just do it half-baked and then they hope it to work. It will never work. And also, I want to share, we do this. If you want to do performance-based competencies, I stress this to many CEOs. I say, look, performance you cannot delegate. Top executive, you must take it into your wind. You must make sure that you know what is going on. You cannot delegate this element to anybody for that matters. You don't have to do it. You need to know what it is. You need to understand how things has been done in your organization. Okay. All right. How do you minimize personal bias in the more subjective assessment? All right. Okay. Victor, I just want to share with you. Do you know that many KPI are very subjective? I mean, practice in industry. The minute, of course, I covered that in my previous session. So, but anyway, just for the purpose of knowledge, is this: if your KPI is not quantified in a particular manner, what is mid target, stretch, high performance target, you will always be biased. All right. And when a system is biased, okay, as a staff, you will always lose out. All right. So for KPI, I find that many system KPI are very biased because they are subjective, even though they say KPI. Okay, they're very, very subjective. I covered that in my previous session, so I won't go into that in depth. Competencies, okay, it can be very biased. I will tell one thing: we cannot 100% eliminate biasness in competence, but we can reduce it. And we'll show you how to do it, Victor. I'm going to come to that later. But to do this, let's go and look at the assessment model, and I show you why certain assessments are very, very biased. Okay, now I'm going to show only 3 assessment models: fixed assessment, compliance assessment, and proficiency assessment. All right. Now, fixed assessment is 70% of most companies are using this assessment model. If you have a set of competencies, 70% of companies using that. Now, what is assessment model is very simple. Take, for example, we have one company called communication. Then they already decided 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then what they do is they put a description into each of the assessment requirement. All right. So this is, you must have all this to get a 5. You must have all this to get a 4. You have all this to get 3. You have all this to get 3. If not, you get 1, you do this. And most companies will just apply across the whole organization. In other words, whether you are CEO or not, you still have this. If you are executive, you still assess the whole thing. This is the what we call the fixed assessment model. Now, the problem with fixed assessment model is very biased. I'll tell you why. Because what happens if you are junior executive? Chances you will never get more than 3. If you get 4 and 5, means you are better than your direct report. All right. And even your direct report are not competent, he or she will never get less than 4 and 5. So this is unfortunately the most of the model used by most companies. And I will tell you one thing: if you continue to use this model, you will not able to drive competency. So competency is not just about what competency you have. Okay, so this is a model which I will not recommend. And some industry even very interesting. Just to share with you this. Okay, why is that I cannot? Okay, some organization, I worked with one company way back 2010. Okay, very interesting. They even have variable rating model. Well, this is very incredible. And just to share with you, predominantly this model was used by property and construction-based company. So you just imagine how complex it is. So if you are CEO, you always top exam, you always score very high one. Okay, and you marginalize it. So this is, now I just want to know how many companies have something like this model which is used, but if you use this model, my recommendation is you should stop using this model because it's not a good model. All right. Typically in the West, especially UK, they tend to use the compliance assessment model. Now, compliance assessment model is very, very simple. It is a very simple model. They just have a description of unsatisfactory, then a description of satisfactory. At the end of the year, your superior will gauge how many percentage you have here, how many percentage you have here, and then you decide whether you get 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a compliance-based model. This is a typical European-based model used quite a lot in I'm not mistaken, is in UK. They tend to use a lot of compliance-based models. Sometimes very interesting, depending on the consultants that operate on the framework. This one is quite tricky because you really have to assess an individual. But the problem here again is the description is the same whether you are a junior staff or whether you're top executive, for example. All right. So currently, I also do not recommend company to use this model. All right. The third model to use, which is now I encourage, this is the Australian standard, okay, we call it Proficiency Assessment Model. Now, this is important when we talk competency. Now, let me just explain a little bit about what is this model, okay. Now, this model is called the Proficiency Model. Now, what it does very differently from all these other models, okay, all these other models is this. You have a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So they have a competency. Now, what is interesting that you assign which person are given a level. Okay, so level 1, okay, then the person given level 2, okay. Shireen, I'll answer your question afterward. Huh? Okay, so this is level 3 and level 4. Now, so which means to say, if I'm an executive administration, if I give level 1, that means to say, I will only use this description and this information to assess the executive administration, all right? If I'm assigned level 4 to a general manager, that means to say, I only use this descriptor to assess the general manager. So you can see very different is that they are all in the same department, but an executive will be assessed on this level, the top executive will assess on this level. Now, what it means to say, I want to go through a little bit here. That means to say, now assuming I'm an executive, my boss will ask me this question. So there are five very important elements. So what is communication? Now, this is very interesting. The communication is not whether a person can talk. So now you can see it's very important. It's about presenting information in a clear, logical, and persuasive manner. All right. So assuming I meet this requirement means, okay, there's a tendency I can get more than 3 or 3. Now, I might even get 2 because this doesn't qualify. This is just a general description. Now, if I'm an executive, you will assess me on this criteria. Communicate and share appropriate information with relevant party on a timely basis. So in communications for this level, you assess me whether I share the appropriate information or not. For example, if I ask, hey, can you give me the information? Then he give me more than the information that I needed. That means to say, this person, I ask A, he give me A, B, C. So in other words, I want to be very precise. When I ask A, you give me A. Ask B, you give me B. Don't give me more than what I needed. So that means it must be appropriate. Relevant party. Some people email send to everybody. No. Make sure the information you send must send to the person that the information makes sense. You don't go and email to everybody. Third, timely basis means to say that I want it. Boss, can I give it tomorrow or next day? Means you should know very well that this information, when do I expect to have, and I don't need to ask for me. So now, that means to say, I will assess whether you're competent. Articulate, associate well with different customer background and develop within and inside or outside the organization. That means I'll also assess you whether you, I have come across some people say, sorry, boss, these people I don't handle. No, it is your job. It is the job that you to involve the group of people, then you have to find ways you need to improve a person. But let's say the individual, I have exhibit all the skill, I will have to give him a rating of 5, but a rating for 5 of level 1. That means they said, now the executive administrator, in the old system, there's no way you can get 5, even compliant based. Now the executive administrator can get a rating of 5 based on level 1. Now, if I were to look at the general manager, now general manager this is expected. Why do I have to measure this? I'm going to measure this. A general manager, in this case, assuming level 4, keep abreast of emerging changes in information and seek to accompany it where appropriate. I will judge you by whether are you keeping on track with how the communication channel, the system used in the industry and how you apply into your department. How do you take the various channel of communication and allocate it to the various people and various subsection you have? All right, this is very important. The second part is this: influence, inspire, engage others in sharing their view and ideas in guiding and shaping the team to obtain concrete results. In other words, I don't judge you whether you are a good communicator or not. I judge you whether your people are good communicators or not. You can be a top executive and your people are not communicating well. You have to take responsibility. That means to say, I will look at how your teamwork, I'll look at all these things because you are level 4, called influencing, this is called acquiring, okay? Then I'll also judge you effectively present, convince strategic decision maker with compelling arguments and insightful case. Means every month you attend a corporate meeting, board meeting. I will also judge you whether you are able to articulate, whether you have to make a key point, what is important to you this matter. Assuming you only make half only, okay, you only get a rating of 3, while your staff can get a rating of 4 of level 1. This is now the what we call the new standards of competencies. And I will strongly recommend all organizations to use this model because this is the correct model. You don't have to use from me, but I will ask you to adopt the new, what we call proficiency assessment model. Now, very interestingly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do you assess them? I will show you already. The second thing, what in our system requirement, if I give a rating of 5 to this individual, as a direct report, I must give reason why I give him a 5. Okay, I'm just sharing you this. If I give the person a rating of 1, I must explain myself why I give him a 1. So in other words, you need to have a check and balance mechanism. So this is very important. So in other words, you cannot simply give people a rating just like this. All right. So of course, the rating system will depend on what we call the rating. Sorry, the rating system is. Sorry, I just need to move this a little bit here. So in this case, you will have various rating models that you can use. Of course, you can do this. So in the KPI, it's called meet target. In the competency, you use all common denominator, assuming I decide. I'm not asking you must use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm just giving an example. If meet target is 3 for KPI, for competency, if it's competent, it's a rating of 3. All right. For KPI, meet target is stretch target is a 4. For competence, highly competent. Then we will just rate. What do you mean by highly competent? Okay. Then, first of all, you must achieve more than 50%. Second thing is his result must indicate that he has actually go beyond that. So this is just to show you different. But please remember, today is just only sharing sessions. I wouldn't want to go into too technical, okay, on these matters here. So you can see that, of course, work performance is based on this. Competency performance is based on all these frameworks. So this is a very important. Sorry, what did I do? Okay, I should go into here. All right. So this is a proficiency model here. Any questions, guys? I stop here for a while because I think after this I go into the framework development already. Now, any company are using this model? Can I have anyone? And please key in company that are using the proficiency model. I want to know any feedback. Any consultant here, HR consultants? Any of a client using the competency model? Okay, some people ask me, any company other than your client? Okay, I will share with you. Proton is using this model, but not in the correct manner. Okay. Some company actually got it wrong. They don't understand how to use the proficiency model. Okay, so there are companies who use this model but don't use it correctly. All right. Okay. Any question here? Okay. Bell curve. Sorry, I'm not a believer of bell curve. So I don't use bell curve, and I don't encourage company to use bell curve because eventually, if you implement everything correctly, you still need to do moderations. I always believe you need to do moderations before you go to reward. You need to do calibrations, but I don't indulge in bell curve. Bell curve means that bell curve is a concept that I totally disagree because it is called forced ranking. Once you have forced ranking, it's a bell curve model. So I don't believe in forced ranking on how to do the model here. All right. I think something wrong. Okay. All right. All quite clear now. So if you have no question on this, I will now go back to I covered these 3 parts already. Now I try as best to cover the last. Now let's go into the framework development. So if there's no questions, let's go into framework development. Now, framework development, basically, I've divided into a couple of things here. There are actually 5 parts, 2, 4, 5. The ones is just to show you what is the benefit of developing a framework. So I need to share with you this. Now, first of all, to do a framework development, the company must decide to select a set of competencies. All right, normally it's between 15 to 20 set of competencies that you will have to select. And then of course, eventually you organize them into cluster. All right, so this is a typical example of a competency cluster. So what you need to do is, in this case, you will decide what are the competencies, what are the functional, what are the leadership. Now, normally, why I recommend to use this, leadership are normally based on level. Means, when I said level, means to say if I'm a GM, whether it's sales, marketing, project, so normally there are a set of competency a GM all must have. If I have a manager, so it doesn't matter what functional group you are, if you are a manager, there are certain leadership competency you must have because it's functional are normally based on the function of the department. Core are compulsories. Okay, so for example, you do selection, you can actually go and do a select. Let's show you this. So in other words, for example, the company will select, in this case, there are 20 competencies. After they select 20 competency, then they reorganize the competency into 3 grouping. Now, some people ask me, can I organize into 2 grouping? These are some of the best practices really. I sometimes always tell one thing is, you can do 2 cluster, it's not a problem. But over the years, company has realized that basically leadership is very important. You don't have one called leadership. Actually, leadership is a combination of various set of competency. Like to be a good leader, in this case, there are 4 elements here. You must be business focused. You have to make decisions. You must be able to develop people. You must develop strategic thinking. So this is a very important. Okay, all right. What is the best method to begin to create KPI? We'll come to that. I have a program that actually covers that, so we'll come to that afterward. But here today we'll talk about competencies. All right. So then after that, these are the 20 competency. I will then organize them into the cluster here. All right. So basically that is the idea. So that's the first step. Now let's go to the second part. So once you have selected the competency, what you need to do is you have to select the assessment model. Okay, you know very well, I am very pro on proficiency assessment model. So all my development job for all my corporate clients, since I've been working consultancy for the last, I think, more than 10 years, okay, I always encourage client to go on a proficiency model. Let me tell you this, the advantage of Profi is really incredible. I'm going to come to that and share with you. You can do it for many things. It's not just only for assessment of stuff. There are other significant benefits. We're going to come afterward and show to you what is this. So, of course, you need to set. But some companies, I say, until I want to go back to the fixed assessment model, well, you can do that. It's not a problem. But there will be some limitation of what you can do with this. Then some company ask me, Anthony, can I apply? My company is very small. Can I apply this? Let me tell you this. In fact, the smaller the company, the proficiency model is even more important. So size has nothing to do with what assessment model you use. It's just whether you want, how comprehensively you want to set it up here. All right. Okay. Then of course, the level of comprehensiveness. Now that's very important. Some company, I've done job for client who just use only by level. Means I don't go by position, I don't go by function. Top executive, this is the assessment requirement. Senior management, of course, I need to know who go into the senior management. This will be the assessment. Now, if I go by job level and job positions, means to say I will then assign each job what are the proficiency level. Please remember today, we're not here to talk about how to do it. I just want to share with you what you need to do. All right. So please, I will not cover how this has been done because we use smart tools to actually all these things here, but you can do it. So this one is using what we call job level. One is called job level and job position. So some organizers ask me, Anthony, but which is better? Now, of course, if you ask me, the more detail you do, the better. But is the job level method work? Yes, it still works. It's just a question of comprehensiveness. All right. It's better to have something you do that you don't have to do anything. I have clients who actually use by job level, so it's not a problem. I got clients who use very high level called job level and job position, also not a problem here. All right, don't worry about all these different marking. Then you need to do profiling. Okay, after you need to do profiling. So profiling means you will profile. Okay, assess by level, assess by function, and then finalize by job position. So I will then create a job positions, I will do a profiling and so forth. But if we do by job level, means by job level, we don't have step 2 and step 3, all right? Then you do a proficiency level. Proficiency level means to say that Once I assign the competency, I want to know what is the proficiency level required for that particular position, like manager admin. Now, manager admin showing accountability, I'm not going to measure him, but analytic thinking, I want to measure based on level 3. All right. For functional knowledge, for him, because he's a manager, it's not so critical. I'm more important how he manages people. I expect him to have enough knowledge to understand what's going on, delegations and so forth. All right. Now, let's say, for example, he's, let's look at another executive admin. Okay, executive admin will be all 2. And for example, like business focus, I'm not going to measure myself business focus, only for manager, for personal assistant. Now, personal assistant here could be very high level because the PA can mean many things to many organizations. All right. So this is called the proficiency level here. Do we do it there? Okay. Then of course we have, this is proficiency level. So basically is you do profiling, you do proficiency. All right. I don't think we have time to go into such detail. Let me share find what's the time now. Okay. So it's almost done already. Then after that, we will look at the benefits here. Now, let me tell you this. I always encourage company to develop best practices. Now, the benefit and usage are very significant. Number one, I can use competence. Once I come up with very strong competency framework, I can encourage managers and across the whole organ to mentor, develop, and grow the competence levels of each staff. There are many, many types of competence levels. So in other words, some have different levels because, take for example, I just want to share with you. Now, I can have, okay, take for example, like in this case, level 3, here level 2. So I might be very competent analyst, but I might not be very good in delegation. So a manager might be quite good in analytical, but he might not do in delegations. So last year, very interesting, I was doing succession planning. Some people are very, very good, but then we find that there's certain weaknesses. So when you do, you can actually now do a mentor. You can actually mentor people on what are the various things. Then of course, this one, I think you're aware already, we can do bonus, increment, promotion, annual planning. All right. Now, this is also very powerful. You can now create a very powerful, what they call interview and selection tool for recruitment. That means to say that I will not want to be what they call impressed by a person who speak very well, but I think what I will want to do is make sure that people, the 3 persons who do the interview are based on a set criteria. And the criteria are based on the proficiency. Let's say I want to do an interview, okay, of, let's say I want to look at group accountants. So group accountants, I will use these informations. So I'll put, because I can organize into questionnaire. So all the 3 interviewers who interview the potential candidates will be based on fundamental. It can be based on core competency. It can be based on leadership, that we look at whether this person leadership. It can lose a certain functional aspect of it that we want that individual to have and so forth. So it allows you to do a lot of things here. Talent and succession planning assessment. Now, I tell you, this is quite incredible. Last year, we did a high-level succession planning exercise for a public listed company. You couldn't believe that the competency framework model is so effective in the sense that we actually can look at it. What we did is we do a one-to-one interview with the potential candidate. Then we do an interview with the top executive in the company. Then we do a psychometric test to do the same thing, and we combine together, and you can do succession planning. You can do talent management as well, because I have a group of talents, for example, coming from this. Then I will know that next year, this group of people will be promoted to be in managerial positions. I will know what kind of criteria and level of competency each of them need to have, and I can build my talent to work on this particular area. All right, so that actually covers the whole aspect of the competency model. All right, I think we overrun the time. Okay, so guys, any questions? Okay, any questions? Are you okay or not? I mean, do you feel that you learn enough? Okay, I will, probably you can actually attach, you can send this learning material. Okay, how do you have a workshop? Okay, we don't actually, okay, I don't really do I'm not so much into training aspect of things. Shireen, just to share with you this. What I do is I'm more on executions. So I go to a company and help them to do for example, the company will engage a project 2 months, 2 to 2.5 month project. We do the executions. We help them to execute on the performance things. Pavi already sent you the PDF file already. Okay, you can do it. Okay, please download the file. Okay, so it's already downloaded already, so you can see the download. Okay, so I think it's very important. Certain things we cannot do. There's so many things to teach. Sometimes we have to also draw the line where we can teach and what are the things that we can do and so forth. All right, so you have already. Okay, you want the recording? I think you can refer to my staff, and they'll send you the recording if there's a request for recording. I always believe learning is sharing, so it's not a problem. If you have, you can always do the recording and so forth. All right. Okay. All right. Now next part I want to do basically is, of course, I like to promote my program. Okay, I think this is I think it's an excellent program. It's the birth of COVID-19. What COVID-19 has done for us, Top Foresight, is amazing. We were able to create very powerful programs on the virtual basis. Okay, so this program, I will encourage you to attend. I have something very special for those who come for these sessions. We always try to do that for those in the community. All right. Now, you know very well, this program is on the 14 to 15, and this the early bird is 950, special offers is 1050, normal is 115. Organizations send more than 3 packs. You get, on top of this, we will give you a 10% discounts. All right, it's not a problem. You can actually do that, and I think this is also you can claim from HDR, not the full amount. All right, but however, I want to share you one thing is I have a very special deal for all of you here. Now, this is a very special deal. All right, let me just click on it here. You can actually download. Now, what is this special deals? Now, this special deals is this. Those who attend this program and register before the 22nd of June, on top of what you're going to get, we're going to give you a set of customer library objective statement and measures. Because in the investment here, you will only get the library, which is pre-set in. But here, we will give you a set of libraries, and this library you can customize it. You can do anything. Okay, and it's very powerful. You can actually make it very dynamic. You can go back, add new measures, relate the measures, and of course you can actually organize in a very cluster manner. So if you come as an individual, okay, even register with the 22nd of June, on top of that, we will throw you this set of library. Now, this library, in normal circumstances, we don't give. Unless you actually do consultancy work with us, we actually provide you the library. And normally, to do a consultancy, it can work between over 35,000 to up to 200,000. All right. So this is a special gift because I always believe today we try to make learning as possible, as easy as possible. It's not just about learning. Implementation is very important. For organization that send 3 participants or more, okay, I even going to give you something more amazing. All right. Besides you get this customized library objective measure, we also going to provide you what we call a library of standard job position with build objective measure and target setting set. Now, what it means basically is this. You don't even have to worry already. 70 to 80% of all the job positions, head of finance, senior accountants, anything, a template of objective measure with samples of how to set targets are already built inside here already. So you can see how powerful it is. Let's say you got 20 executives. Once you have my system already, you just have to then copy and then just populate everything into this. So it covers almost all the job positions, almost all. I want to qualify, not all, almost all, because there are some jobs that can be very unique. Of course, you can actually use one template here and then we copy. So basically, you will have things like this, which means to say, I give you an example. Okay, sorry, I want to share with you this. So we mean to say that you will have all this template built inside for you already. All right, so we can actually build the whole template inside so that you can actually refer to it here. So this is a very special deal, okay? But please note, this special deal is registered before the 27th of June. On top of that, I'm going to throw in another half-day session on customization exercise. Means to say, I will give you a set of things that you need to do. Once you have done your problem, then we will do a half-day session so that by the time I finish the half-day session with you, whatever you need to set KPI for the staff, everything has all have been established, and I'll teach you how to monitor, how to set up, how to drive the managers to the various things here. All right, so this is a very special deal for those who attended these sessions. All right. Now, I will also get Pavi. You can download the brochure for them. Okay. I'll also download the corporate profile so that you can actually look who we are and what kind of work that we need to do here. All right. We also do what they call in-house sessions. If you think there's a need for you to contact me and things like this, we can look into the things in this matter. All right. Then the KPI profile, you can actually go in and download it from the chat. We also will send you a corporate profile. Okay, so you can actually have a look at the corporate profile so that you can just look at it. Okay, so today technology is so amazing. I don't even have to send anything to you. Everything we can communicate using this particular file here. All right. So we have a corporate profile. We also have, actually there are three. One is the material itself, which you are learning. Now, let me show you how to use our materials, which is also very important, which I want you to know is this. Now, all these are, when you go in, you can see all these are objects. I click on the object, I can go back. So when you open the file, you just click on this. It works the same way. You click on it and you want to move, you just move here. All right. You want to go back, you click on it, you want to go back. So some of the thing has a much more important information that you have. If you want to do question and answers, you can look at question and answers. You want to go back. Back means to the front page. Huh? So let's say if I want to look at the competency here and I want to look at corporate values, I want to learn something like this. As long as you see there's a box, you can click on it and you can go back here. All right. So back, you can just go back. And you can see toggle, you can toggle. I want you to learn how to use the material. So these materials allow you to actually use. So part of the learning, let me just go back. Part of the learning is that part of the what we call is we give very powerful interactive learning materials. So you will get this, and you can see that. So different user can look at subject very different depending on what you want to do. You click here, you come here, you click here, you show you this, and here you can go in and go to any one of them. You click here, you click this one simple step, you tell you the step to do it. All right, so this is actually the learning tools that we actually provide for you. Okay. All right. Now, any questions? Please feel free to ask. Okay. I hope that you have learned. It's a very I would say it's a very comprehensive areas of subject. It took me a while to figure out how to compact something in 1.5 hours. Yeah, if you okay, how to answer you, Agnes? I already throw you the customized library. You pay $9.50. That you can get the customized library. All right. Anyone, any questions? Please feel free to ask me. Okay. Feel free to ask me. I will do my level best to answer you the questions. I really hope you enjoyed it. More important thing, if you think you learned something, just key into the chat and then tell us what have you learned. And of course, if you think something that we can improve, please feel free, because learning is we are always continuous learning, so as much as we can. All right. So please download it. Anything you want to share, more important. I was always worried. I always very worried what we call information overload. Too much information can be bad. All right. So I must try my best to manage it, because actually sometimes we've got to be very careful. Okay. Thanks very much, Sunita. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Please feel free to go to our website. There are quite a lot of materials that we have, and our goals is always like this, to share as much as possible. All right. So I hope to see some of you back. And more important thing, please feel free to contact me, contact my staff. Okay. That's the most important thing. All right, guys. I think Wani has a key in topforesight.com. You can actually download that and you can go in. All right. Okay. If there's no question, take care. Very important thing, and be positive. I think we have too much of fake news and negative news. I think we should always learn to look at things in a positive manner, in the best way we can. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much for your comment, and I really appreciate your feedback.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much then. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anthony.
Oh, my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every session we try to do something different. All right. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks. My pleasure. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So I'm going to close the sessions. So I will wish you all the best. Okay. Thanks then. Bye-bye.